Why, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today I'm driving out the M8A1 in a realistic battle on Kursk. Now, as many of you were wondering, I did manage to get it at 6 a.m. before I left to drive back up to school. It was very bold, and a lot of people were saying that it was a really tough mission, and I just didn't experience that, and I'm sure it was because I got it done in two games. The first game I got one. I was doing it in realistic battle, so I needed 10 kills versus the 20 you'd need in arcade. And my first game I got 1, and then the next game I got 9. So now I was just like, fuck it, I'm done. But anyway, the M8, the first thing I noticed about it, one, it does have that bug, and I'm sure a lot of you have already figured this out. And I knew about it before I even loaded this tank up. You need 1 round of the default ammunition to on the tank just to get the machine gun to work, which I think the way that is that the machine gun ammunition takes an ammo slot or something to that effect, so you need one of the default rounds to, I guess, trigger that. I don't know. So I don't have the machine gun in this game, although it wouldn't have been terribly useful. There were a couple situations it would have been, but you know, if you don't have it, you can't use it in the game. But anyway, the M8, it's a 2.0 battle rating, and it has the Sherman's gun, the M4A1's gun, the M3 cannon, which is pretty strong in my opinion. M8, they just have, the 75 is just really, really effective against Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs, and what do you see a vast majority of Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs? This tank also does 56 kilometers an hour, so you're going to get places in a hurry, and as far as I can tell, the armor it doesn't look great, but at decent ranges, the penetration in this tier isn't that great anyway. I mean, this tank can potentially see, and we will see in this game, reserve tanks, which, like a Panzer IIc, has 0 chance at medium, long range of even coming close to penetrating this tank from the front. Now, the Panzer IV short-barreled 75s with HE I've found can be a problem with this. If they hit you in the turret, the explosion a lot of times can kill your loader and your gunner. But what's happened is myself and my team have just blitzed along the western flank here, and now we're causing some problems for the enemy who are holding the ridge and trying to snipe us out in Panzer IVs and a Panzer II. You know, Panzer II is known to be a very strong sniper, but the flank is now dealt with, and this is the advantage of really fast tanks with large caliber guns, is if you can get there, you just wipe them out. And now the entire enemy team that went anywhere other than this ridge is completely boned, because look, there's just targets all over the place here, and I'm gonna start shooting at the easier ones, because it's always better to work from the closer targets out to the farther ones, because those are the guys that are most likely to give you some issues. And it's part of it is that, I mean, this M3 cannon is sort of designed to deal with Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs, so sitting out here at range against these tanks is ideal, and I don't need to move from this spot. I can just continue to pound these guys from the side, from the rear, because most of them are still engaged at the front from the very few members of our team. I think 3 or 4 tanks that went into the middle part of the map, whereas I think maybe 5 or so of our tanks went to the western flank and just sort of swept around. It's just, I mean, with this tank, if you were lucky enough, or you managed to do all the missions, or just got really lucky, the AP shot, I forgot what it's called. I think it's the M93 or M91, one of the two. That's the best round on this tank by far. Even though its penetration is a little much sometimes, the fact that it's a AP with the exploding damage effect is really, really good. Because you can see, it's just, once the round gets in there, it just nukes the crew. And it's very difficult to not penetrate with this gun. And it's also not a bad gun in terms of aiming it and getting on target, because the muzzle velocity isn't that bad. There's some guns where the muzzle velocity is like a limiting factor at just about every range, but less so with the M3 cannon. And this is where the 50 cal actually might have been useful. It certainly would have been useful against the first two enemies we came across, because I had their size and I could just lit them up with the 50 cal, and that would have been some serious problems for them. Would have killed maybe 2 or 3 crew members before they were able to turn their turret or even their tank, and that very well could have done them in. And at this range, the 50 cal for me is generally, it's good for range finding, because if you switch, like I have the machine gun bound to the H key, so if I switch to the machine gun, I get the machine gun sights, which have range markers just like the tank cannons, so I can just, fire off quick machine gun bursts to determine the range to a target, and then I have a good option for my larger gun. And something I haven't tried, but I will be trying, is the IS-2 1944 is able to use its machine gun. So I think what I'm going to do with that is use that as my ranging tool while I'm reloading, so I don't have to waste shells and waste time, firing a shell to range a target when it's going to take me 6 cold dark centuries to reload. And honestly, at this point in the game, I have zero fear of these tanks at this range, because I don't think which one is that, Panzer IV-C. I did take a penetrating hit, or if I haven't, I think I'm about to. There it is. And my driver gets taken out, which is annoying. But his next few shots do absolutely nothing. I'm able to repair the track from my previous engagement and just back up very quickly, because this tank has a very powerful engine for how light it is. It's a Stuart with a bigger open top turret. And speaking of the turret, something you do have to get used to is, even though the machine gun is mounted fairly low on top of the turret, and you'd think that it would have very similar gun depression to the main gun, the machine gun on this tank is almost like 0 gun depression. You can't aim the machine gun down very much, which is a little bit of an issue when you're trying to, maybe you're coming over a hill and you're shooting the main cannon, but you can't get the machine gun on target, which can really be a deciding factor sometimes if you have a 50 cal blasting them up in the side. So something to keep in mind. It's like, for example, the M103, I've driven it around in test drive. I don't have it yet. The machine gun is sitting high up on the turret, which means you have to aim lower for the machine gun. However, the machine gun has a lot of gun depression because it is sitting higher up on the turret, and it's on like a little tripod rather than on a fixed mount on this tank. But something to keep in mind. And until they fix the bug with the ammunition and the machine gun not working, I've since fixed it for this tank, where I have 1 round of the default that just sits on my tank and I never use, which I'm a little sad about, because this tank doesn't have a whole lot of ammunition and the gun fires fairly quickly. I think it has 46 rounds of ammunition, so essentially 45, with the final round being a AP shell that fragments rather than explodes. And I don't have a great opinion of those shells. They usually have pretty good penetration, but they just don't. Once they penetrate the tank, they generally just go right through. So you have to hit components, and if the enemy's angled well, you may not hit those components, which could be a little bit of an issue. But we're coming to the conclusion of this little fight here. What happened was, I sat on that ridge and killed tons of enemy tanks, and then I drove down into the valley and straight back towards our spawn to polish off the last of, the enemy who got the farthest. And then now it's just a mad race back here to try and score the last kill. And the first shell misses, and I will note that I am traveling at the max speed, and right after the game ends, bam. That was a decent shot, if I do say so myself. Didn't knock him out, but he had serious issues. So, first impressions of the M8. I'll do a full review on this tank. It's not a pressing thing for me, and the review will probably focus more on how do you deal with it rather than what it's like. But I'll cover both, obviously, but that's in the future. Maybe 1 or 2 reviews in the future, because I have a couple in the works that I'd rather finish first. But anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll see you next time.